It finally feels like summer in the Wyoming mountains, and I'm going to show you how I cook in the kitchen without air conditioning. This is the first time that we've lived in a house without air conditioning. Before, we lived in Texas, and of course you need it down there because it is so hot. And then I've lived in the Midwest before, and also it's just so hot and humid that air conditioning is common. The town that we moved to in Wyoming, it's not as common to have air conditioning here because summer temperatures are really mild. I think at the most we get around the 70s during the day, and then the nights are still around maybe 40s or 50s. We never really have hot nights, so it's not very common for people to have air conditioning around us. This house is one story without air conditioning, and it still gets up to about 78 degrees if we're having a hot day, so that is very difficult to cook in, especially because I don't deal with heat very well. One thing that I do try to do during the hot months is to cook in the morning if I can. So today I'm making more of the chocolate syrup that we use in our coffee, and also I'm going to make some yogurt in the Instant Pot. It's just a nice easy breakfast. You don't have to turn the stove on for it, and the Instant Pot doesn't heat up the house, which is great. I have a recipe that I can share for Instant Pot yogurt. It's super easy. I do a gallon at a time, and I put 1 gallon of milk into the Instant Pot, and then you put it on the boil setting, which is if you press that yogurt button a few times, and then it'll bring it up to temperature, and it'll beep whenever it gets to 180 degrees. In the meantime, I'm preparing a pot with ice in it because as soon as it gets to 180 degrees, I have better luck if I can cool the yogurt down myself, or I guess at this point, cool the milk down myself to about 120 degrees before I mix my starter into it. The hot temperatures make me feel so tired. I know in previous videos I've mentioned that I stopped drinking caffeine, but I have broken that rule, and I've been drinking caffeine for the past week or so because I just get so exhausted in the middle of the day because it just feels warm in the house all the time. Thankfully, at the time that I'm recording this video, we did purchase another AC unit for the window. Our previous one was kind of old, so we needed something new. So now we have an AC unit, and it does keep the house at a decent temperature. I mean, it's not like it's an ice box or anything, but at least we're not at 78 degrees throughout the day. Here I'm showing you that I save 4 tablespoons of yogurt each time that I make it, so that the next round I don't have to buy yogurt for my starter. I just have it ready to go in the freezer. So I'll thaw this yogurt out, and then after the Instant Pot went off, I'm going to cool it down to 120 degrees, and I'll mix that starter into it. I am adding water to the ice, so it's like an ice water bath. And I have the best luck if I just whisk the milk and kind of stir it every minute or so, and then I'll check the temperature, and it takes about, I don't know, 8 to 10 minutes to come down to 120 degrees. On this day, I was hoping to use the Instant Pot for dinner as well, and I realized that I had the yogurt going into it, but that is another tip or thing that I'm trying to do while it's hot outside, is use the Instant Pot as much as possible. So in the past week I made a meatloaf in the Instant Pot, which I have done that before, but this time around I was making mashed potatoes and meatloaf, which usually I cook my mashed potatoes on the stovetop. So to save myself from having to heat the house up, I was able to make mashed potatoes and meatloaf in the Instant Pot at the same time. And so now I'm going to do that, I think, from here on out, because it was so easy to just cut the potatoes up, and then you use tin foil around your meatloaf to make like a faux pan and put that on top, and then use the Instant Pot and get it up to pressure for I think 25 minutes. And then whenever it's finished, you can mash the potatoes and the meatloaf. I did have to broil it for a couple of minutes, but it definitely did not make the house as hot as if I were to bake it for, 50 minutes or however long it takes. Now that the starter's mixed into my yogurt, I'm going to put it back in the Instant Pot, and I'll do the yogurt setting for 8 hours. I keep this pot out for when the yogurt is finished. I put my strainer in it and then a cheesecloth. So afterwards, I like a really thick Greek style yogurt. I'll just pour the Instant Pot milk, yogurt at that point, into the cheesecloth and let it sit and strain overnight. I did forget to record that part, but it is super simple. As soon as your yogurt goes off, you'll just dump it into this cheesecloth, let it sit in the fridge overnight, and in the morning you'll wake up to nice, creamy, thick yogurt. Another thing that we're doing during the hotter days is keeping the windows closed during the day to kind of trap in the cooler night air. So in the morning when we wake up, it's about 68 degrees in our house. So we do try to keep that temperature as long as possible. But as soon as it starts to rise, then we open the windows up and let a breeze come through. I wanted to show you I'm making my first batch of kombucha. There was a girl in town who was nice enough to share her SCOBY with me. I just asked on our local Facebook page, and it's so good for you, so I can't wait to make more. This is the next day. After working in the garden all day, it was so hot in the house, but we still had to have dinner. So I decided instead of baking a lasagna, which was on our menu, I'm going to just make a simple Instant Pot lasagna pasta. It still heats the house up slightly because I keep the Instant Pot on the saute mode, which there will be some steam and heat coming off it, but it's definitely not as hot as if I were to turn on the gas stovetop. I know I've shown my cheese grater in previous videos, but it is one of my most used items in the kitchen. So I've stopped buying shredded cheese and I just shred my own. And the cheese grater pays for itself within like 2 blocks of cheese, it seems like. I think it was around $20 for the grater, but a bag of cheese at the store nowadays is $8 or $9, especially here in like a small mountain area. Our grocery prices are a bit higher, so shredded cheese is like a luxury. I like to just shred my own at home. This was my first time making this particular recipe. I have done other types of lasagna pastas in the Instant Pot, but this one was really easy. It was just ground beef, and then after that was finished, I added onion and garlic, and then I just used a jar of tomato sauce, my cheese, and some seasonings, and it was good to go. This is a trick that I have never used before, but I saw it recently. If you just stick a paper towel down in your ground beef, then you can soak up most of that grease and not have to strain it. So that saves you from having to dirty up your strainer or like the cup that you pour it in. And this was really easy. It's kind of gross, but I did appreciate that I saved on dishes. I know I've mentioned it in the past, but if you aren't chopping up your onions and putting them in the freezer, you are working too hard. So this takes just maybe 10 minutes of your time, and then for the next few meals you'll have onions that are just ready to go. Now that everything is sauteed, I just dump the tomato sauce in there, add the noodles, and then it says to add water to where it's just barely covering the noodles. But I don't show it. I did have to restart my Instant Pot one more time because the noodles were not finished. I don't think I added enough water the first time around, so you'll see how much I do add. So after this, I think I added about 1 more cup of water. So those are barely covered. I should have, I guess, drowned them to where they're fully covered, and it would have cooked properly. After it's finished, you just do an instant release. And I do try to cover the top so it traps some of that hot steam so it's not going around the house. She was eating shredded cheese and somehow a piece got on my arm, so she helped me to clean that up too. After the noodles were cooked, it's ready to go. You just add in some cottage cheese or ricotta. I opted for cottage cheese since it's a little bit cheaper. And then you top it with your shredded cheese and let it melt on there for just a few minutes. This meal was great because it is baby-led weaning friendly, especially if you use noodles like penne noodles or something that they can just pick up. But I do serve it to her, and I just slice it up really fine so it's kind of like a mushy, and then she can just use her little hands to pick it up and eat it. And here I'm just doing an instant Caesar salad, super easy, not having to work too hard while it's hot in the kitchen. Dinner is served, and we didn't have to heat the house up too much. Thanks so much for joining us as we cooked in our kitchen without any AC, and I will see you in the next video.